Good morning, everybody. It is November 3rd. Sorry I haven't posted something before this, but I had a lot on my plate. And I'm going to do my best to stay on topic here, which, well, if you know me, that's going to be really hard. But all right, so the DWR meeting, they've already had it, and it boils down to a waste of taxpayers' money. And everything you need to know is in that video. Everything you need to know is in that meeting. It's a couple hours long. It's very long. And I'll put the link down in the description. But on a legal standpoint, everything you need to know as a landowner is on that DWR meeting. It gives you everything you need. Now, the link is in the description. I've got a couple other links to some articles where things are just blowing up out there, and it's going to get ugly, I believe. Now, like I said before, I'm not against dogs. I'm not against houndsmen. I've been around some really awesome houndsmen out there, but for me, houndsman is something different than what everybody sees in the public. And I'm going to do my best to stay on topic, but I don't know if that's going to work or not. So, I want to get that out right out. I'm not against dogs. I keep saying this, but I just want you to understand that I'm not. I've used dogs for a lot of stuff, all right? And I've been around some really good houndsmen, but not like what you think. If you're following my channel, and anyhow, I'll stay on topic here. So back to the meeting. So in this meeting, the takeaway that I got, and there's some really good speakers in there that sum everything up, and I definitely recommend watching that video before it's taken down, because it gives you everything you need. If anything, download it before it disappears. That way you'll have it. So the link is in the description. Make sure you click on that, take some time out, and go and watch this video. It is very important. So there's one thing. Well, there's a bunch of things. Oh my God. So for me, my pet peeve is respect. There's a lack of respect out here from landowners and hound hunters, all right, and hunters in general. And the reason I say that is because during bow season is awesome. A good bow hunter, or archery, whatever you want to call it. For me, it's bow hunting, because I started out with a straight bow, and then a compound bow, and then all the way up to this little dart thing that I got now. But a good bow hunter can sneak into the woods, and nobody knows he's there. In fact, you can have everything on your back. If you're using a tree stand, or you have a stand already built, or whatever, you can sneak out in the woods, and nobody knows you're there. You are stealthy. I've been so stealthy in my time of bow hunting that I'm able to sneak up on deer. And that is the funnest thing that you would ever achieve, is sneaking up on a deer with an arrow in your bow and ready to strike. It's so quiet and so slow that you can hear your heartbeat, and you swear up and down the deer can hear your heart. That's how good you get when you learn the skill of tracking and setting up your prey. So black powder, we've rolled into black powder here. Black powder is a lot of fun too. It's kind of the same thing to me. It's a still hunting opportunity where you track your game, and you go out and you set up, you camouflage, you descent, you do all that stuff however you do it. I've got some ways that I do it, and I will go over that here in the near future, but I just doing my best to stick to topic here. So the point is, when you go out in the woods in still season, nobody knows you're there. Nobody. You can sneak into a place and nobody will never know you're there. Now, public lands, that's a little different because it's a public land, and this is the topic I want to get to here in a second. So public lands, it's very tough. It's public land. So you have people that may be hiking, that may be mushroom hunting, maybe whatever. So that is a distraction. But a good still hunter is set up where that person never knows you're there. And it's hilarious sometimes, some of the conversations that you get. Now, I'm going to be honest with you, I always record because it's It's important. You got to protect yourself, and I'll talk to you about that here in a second. So when you're in the woods and you're set up and nobody knows you're there, this season is very fun. It's a lot of fun. It used to be a lot of fun for me, but it got kind of muddy years past. But we'll go back to that here in a little bit, maybe a couple videos in the future. So you're still hunting. So you're out there, and you're either on your property or public land, and somebody comes on and disturbs your hunt. So at what point does that become impeding a hunt? You know, for a bow hunter, a still hunter, you know, it happens a lot because there are people out there that just don't want you to hunt. They are in love with the animals, and totally understandable. That's their right. That's the way they want to be. But they shouldn't impede on your hunt when you're there legally. And so I think that it's very important to, well, have some recording devices. So on a law side, you have to prove all that. You have to prove that they impeded your hunt. So there's no better way than some kind of camera, or, you know, multiple cameras in some case. It's very smart. It's not that you're paranoid. No, I've run into some situations where I wish I had recorded what I was witnessing. So impeding a hunt. So from the houndsman side, you know, they get harassed quite a bit because they are in the public. They are very visual. So they almost represent hunting in everybody else's eyes. So some of the things that happen in running dogs. So when there's problems on their land, all they know is dogs run through their land, and they have animals that are harassed and animals killed, whatever. I have pictures and videos of all this stuff, not just my stuff, just stuff I've been collecting and documenting. And it may not be the dogs that are killing the animals. What happens is the animal gets kicked up and runs to somebody else's property, and there's been incidents out there where, you know, bear have attacked people and deer have run over people, and it's a stampede. So I totally get that, and I get both sides. Don't get me wrong, I'm not beating up on the houndsman. Impeding a hunt. So for me, impeding a hunt is when I'm in a stand, and I've spent a lot of time setting up in a stand or sitting in the woods for hours and hours waiting for my kill. And then here come some dogs running the deer off of the area that I've set up and tracked and got ready for my season. And now those deer are gone. The dogs have run them off. For me, that is impeding. But so here again, you got to have proof. So that's the key for anybody that's into hunting. You've got to have a recording device. You've got to document, and you have to take pictures. Now, from the landowner side, same thing there. You know, the biggest thing I hear out there is all the lies and all that. Well, 3,000, 4,000 plus people, I don't think they're all lying. I have felt both sides of it now, and it just needs to be resolved. So, all right, I told you I was going to end up chasing a bunch of squirrels. This might be long, but I want to get back to the DWR meeting. So in this meeting, I told you that everything you need to know is right there in that meeting. And it is. You know, there's some old timers in there that on the hunting side that have hunt clubs, and I totally feel their pain. I belong to some of these hunt clubs. Just here in Virginia, when I was a teenager, and I hunted the lands, it was down in the Chesapeake area, swamps. I mean, just a really different kind of area than up in this area here, closer to the Blue Ridge. We did things a little bit different. Yeah, it was very traditional and very respectful. We were taught that if you go in the woods, you come out of the woods with more than what you went in with. In other words, if there's a piece of trash on the ground, pick it up, put it in your backpack, and bring it out and put it in the trash. As generations go, a lot of this has just disappeared. So now we're down to the face, or the public, what the public sees is what's going on, and that is well, part of the right to retrieve and just the way things are being hunted now. There's no more land. I totally get it. And if you have a piece of land, you better hang on to it, and you better preserve it and keep it for hunting. But then you yourself, as you preserve that piece of land, now you got to deal with it. That's exactly what a lot of hunters are running into is, you know, still hunters and, you know, bow hunters and black powder. Black powder is a lot of fun. And anyhow, so I told you I'd get caught in a tangent and we'll get off track. One of the things that stuck out, actually a couple things in that meeting, a couple of the hunters said, well, maybe we need to start policing. I'm paraphrasing this. You can watch it in the video. Maybe we need to start policing our own people. That is a smart thing. If I was in a hunt club and somebody was doing something wrong and aggravating some of the locals where they don't even live, that needs to be resolved. If a farmer has a problem with what's going on, that needs to be addressed. You know, people need to call it out. So, if that happens, now I just here recently really got involved in what's going on politically and just what's going on with the hunting. I come from a different school. I come from an old school. I'm not that old. Well, you may look like it, but I'm not that old. But I was taught an old skill way of hunting. All right. Let's call it Appalachian. Let's call it whatever. I mean, I've hunted gator in Florida, wild boars in Florida, to rattlesnakes in California. All right. So I've been around. I've hunted a lot of different things. Even tarantulas. That was a sport in California. Craziest thing. You know, down in Louisiana, that's a whole different ballgame. Out west in the middle, Iowa, you know, bird and quail, and oh my gosh, it's a whole different way of hunting. So I get it. But it's the old tradition that is being lost. If you think back when we, as in people, came to the United States, 1800s, whatever it was. I'm not a history guy, but here lately I've really gotten into it. The Indians roamed the land. They came across when it was during the Ice Age, whatever. You know, scientists have said that land bridges happened, and the native Indians came across these land bridges and populated the United States that we know now. And then we moved into British and all that war. Oh my gosh, 1800s, the black powder, the fight against the Indians. I guess the point is, the Indians roamed the earth, and they used really caveman-like stuff, but they knew exactly how to do it. They didn't have to run dogs. They didn't have to do a lot. They just knew and respected the animals to where they'd go out and walk and kill all they needed for their tribe. Let's just keep it that simple. We're using bows, we're using knives, we're using arrows that they created. Absolutely incredible. So we came in here and landed and, well, tried to get along with them and then basically forced them off the land. So we brought in black powder and, you know, all the modern stuff, the flintlock and all that stuff. And then we moved into black powder, flintlock. And that's why we have, I think personally, it's my opinion, that we have it set up now where we have open bow, then we have black powder, and then we move into general firearms. And that's perfect. But when you run animals through another person's property and totally destroy and impede their hunt, I think that's a problem. In whatever reason. I don't care if it's because you're running rabbit, running squirrel, and running whatever you decide to run with a dog. You're still disturbing the wildlife, in my opinion. I think that bow and black powder needs to be respected. And they even talked about that in DWR meeting this last time. And it makes sense, right? It just makes sense. Anyhow, let's get back to impeding the hunt. So impeding the hunt. So for me, when somebody impedes my hunt is when a dog comes through and kicks up what I've been tracking and living in my little 2 acres of land that stays within that area. And now I've lost that game because the dog has run it off over to whatever 2 acres down the road that somebody's hunting. Okay, you know, they need to kill too. I get that. That's my point, is impeding. Now, back to the DWR meeting. Yes, we need to hold the bad actors or bad apples, whatever you want to call them, accountable. Not just the hunt clubs. The homeowner needs to hold them accountable too. I just firmly believe that. But in my case, I didn't have that issue until I moved to this piece of property. And it really was something I was just trying to deal with, and then it just kind of escalated a little bit. And then I had to put up cameras and stuff like that to, you know, look at my current situation. Not that I'm paranoid. No, there's no paranoid about it. Like I said, my background is in that area. All right, so no, a camera will tell you everything you need to know. If a picture is worth 1,000 words, what is a video worth? It's worth a lot. Especially when it comes to court and law, you got to prove it. Even a game officer, you know, he has to see it. He has to have proof, and then he has to have the person, and then he has to have the tag, and he has to have all the proof lined up before his case can be won. That's just his case. But then it's up to the landowner to follow up, because there's nothing he can do if the landowner doesn't do anything. So there's a lot of different ways that you can look at this. But the bottom line is, I know I'm chasing a lot of squirrels, but it's just what I do. I have a lot in my brain that just wants to come out. All right, so the bottom line is, this is a tradition. All of this is tradition. From way back when the settlers landed in the United States and the British came in and blah, blah, blah. Oh my gosh, it's such an interesting history. It really is, especially here in Virginia. Virginia has a lot of history. And, you know, when you travel around, you move around like I have, when you come back, you kind of forget, you know, how much history and things happened here in Virginia. Of course, if you move to Florida, they're going to teach you something different. If you move to Iowa, they have a different story. If you move to California, they have a different story. Washington State, all the way up to the top of the map, they have a different story. It's amazing, you know, growing up and moving around to all these different sites. It's amazing what different schools teach. You know, Virginia teaches something completely different. There's a lot of history here. So the bottom line is, if this isn't fixed, a lot of the traditions are getting destroyed. You know, the houndsmen, you know, they have a right to use their hounds, but they don't need to be impeding on somebody else's hunt, or impeding on a hairy homeowner. I don't know. You know, some homeowner may feed the deer or feed the bear. Whatever. It doesn't matter. It is their right. And I just firmly believe this, and this is my opinion, all right? And I'm not trying to step on any toes. I'm not trying to call anybody out at this point. Most of the trouble I've had, somebody's called themselves out. Not my fault. And I didn't mean to do that, all right? So I want to document both sides. That is mainly my big ordeal right now. Is I'm a hunter. You know, I've used dogs. Man, I've, like I said, I've been around some of the coolest and best houndsmen around, and they control their dogs, even rabbit dogs. I mean, I see rabbit hunting just in my area, and I've documented quite a bit of it. They just run through the property and kick up the rabbit and keep running. Okay, I'm sorry. I used a rabbit dog that would flush up a rabbit, and he'd come back to you once that rabbit run away, because he was trained to run away so he wouldn't get shot when you take a shot at that rabbit or quail or whatever you're trying to hunt. I've worked with pointers that would just stop in their tracks and tell you where the quail's at, and you walk over there and the quail jumps up and you shoot it if it didn't jump up before. These dogs can be trained to do a lot, and that to me is houndsmanship. You teach your dog to do what it needs. I've had some really good bloodhounds. I mean, a dog that would just take and track down a spot of blood for a kill, and you would find it in no time at all. I'm not against houndsmen, and I'm not against running dogs. I think it's something that you do need at the end of the year, but you need to do it on your property. You don't need to be running it across and disrespecting everybody else's property while your sport is that. And like I said, I'm not against it. I am not against it at all. All right, so I think I've had a little too much coffee. In fact, I'm gonna get rid of it right now, so I won't drink no more. I just ran out of space on my my SD card, and I had to go get another SD card. I kind of knew this was going to be long, but I just needed to get this out. All right, so where we left off, the tradition of hunting, not just houndsmanship, not just black powder, not bow, and all the different traditions. When you have something in the public eye that's all they see, it creates a bad situation, and I got to be honest with you, from a landowner side, when all they see is trucks running up and down the highway retrieving their dogs, that is the face of hunting. Now, I understand it's tradition, and like I said before, I'm not against the tradition. I've hunted with a lot of houndsmen, and it's a good tradition, but it needs to stay where it needs to stay. Now, I know the arguments, believe me, and a lot of that is in that DWR meeting. It's all there. Everything you need to know about this problem that we have is right there on that meeting. And some extra surprises. That's all I can say. The landowner community is, well, how can I say this? It's motivated more than ever now, and it worries me for the simple fact, houndsmanship doesn't need to disappear. The right to retrieve has created a lot of conflict, but the sport and just the traditions doesn't need to be destroyed. It just needs to be fixed. And like I said before, I understand both sides. And it's like this. If you're in the woods with a gun and there's a hornet's nest, and you keep shooting at that hornet's nest, that hornet, not that I've experienced this or not, but that's a whole other story there. That hornet will trace you down and just hit you with everything it's got. Not just him, the entire group. A hive, let's call it the beehive. A bee protects the beehive. So when you back, how about a badger? When you back a badger up in a corner, he has no other way of taking care of himself but to fight. And when you back a badger up in a corner, he will fight, and he will tear you up. Mama bear and her cubs. If you mess with Mama bear and her cubs, she will fight to the end. Point being is, when you draw a line in the sand and you say, nope, this is it, no, nothing else is going to happen, then you back somebody up in a corner. When there's no give and take, it creates a bad situation. That's what I got out of this DWR meeting. That was one of the biggest things is, and there were some things voiced that just hit home, and that's what I see, that the writing is on the wall, and we can't lose tradition because we don't want to give up a little bit of it. Hunting is very important to me, and it's very important to a lot of people out there. In fact, a lot of people, that's how if you're a homestead and your goal is to put up as much meat as you can while you can, and then preserve, or however you decide to do it. Smoking, there's a lot of traditions when it comes to all this stuff. You smoke the meat, you make it last longer, you preserve it with salt. There's all kinds of different ways to preserve meat. So in a homestand or a homestead situation, that is your goal, is to put up as much food as you can in the growing season or the hunting season to make it through the winter. Not all situations are like that. There's different climates, and I've got to experience some of that. But there's still homesteaders in all different states across the United States. So it's very important. We can't lose that. It's bad enough we have people out there that just absolutely despise hunting and don't want anything to do with it. All right. As long as it's packaged up in a package and put on the shelf, it's okay. But a lot of people don't understand what it's all about. So I totally get that. That's a whole nother problem in itself with just that, for anybody who hunts. You know, we have to preserve the heritage, and I totally get that. You know, after doing some of the research in a lot of this going on, a lot of the people that are fighting for the tradition were never involved in a tradition. Their family was never in the tradition. And that amazes me in itself, and that's a whole other story. But still, they're in the fight. I totally get it. You know, it's like somebody moving into the country, and they moved out to the country because it's nice and that's where they wanted to be. But they forget the reason they moved out to the country. And then they try to stop everybody else from moving into the country. It's kind of like that, you know, and I totally get it. There's many different ways we can go with all this. But the bottom line is, the writing is on the wall. And the DWR meeting told it all in just this one meeting. If you really analyze this meeting and everything that was said in this meeting, it's not looking good for a lot of different directions. And there has to be that policing. That policing that says, all right, we need to do this, we need more education, and we need to teach better morals and ethics. Believe me, I'm not a professor, and I don't know everything there is for all this stuff, but it's common sense to me that you have to respect each other, just like what was said in this meeting, and there has to be a line of respect. There is no respect right now. There's no respect in both sides because it's just been lost. That respect and the community value, I guess, you know, just taking care of the community. That's what's starting to happen. I can really see it happening, and it can be done. But to destroy the traditions, I think it's being destroyed from within, and I think all that is come to a head. You know, this the right to retrieve law is kind of the powder keg of it all, and I can see that landowner side and the hunting side. I totally understand it to a certain point, just because I'm a landowner, but I'm also a hunter. So I feel both sides of it. Now I don't have thousands and thousands of acres, but I do have a nice little 10-acre piece of property, and that's all you need, as long as you can hunt it without all the interference, right? Just my opinion. I know this was long. Man, I went through an SD card already. I've got to go pick through this and try to get you a video together. You know, this has to be fixed. It's not going to go away. There's too many people moving in wanting a piece of Virginia. I can respect that. On the hunting side, the locals and the families that have been in this area for decades, or I don't know how many years, all right, a long time. I totally feel for you. I really do. I think of the Indians. I think of the native Indians when they owned this land. They didn't own it. They respected it. It was everybody's land. Now they had their conflicts and they built all these different tribes from those conflicts. Just the same thing the United States did before it was the United States. We fought for all this territory and land, which really wasn't ours to begin with. It was the native Indians. So I always think of that. You know, they roamed the land and did and hunt, and they respected the waters, they respected the land, they respected the trees. A whole different story there. Oh my gosh. You know, the more I dig into it, the more, um, the less I know. The more I dig into it, the less I know. It's absolutely amazing. Another topic. The bottom line is we have to hang on to these traditions and we have to work together as from a landowner and a hunting side. You know, I've got some really nice stands out here that I've been working on for a while, and I got to be honest with you, still working on it because it's kind of like a hobby, right? I just have a very big hobby. I have a whole 10-acre uh, piece out here, and that's my hobby, right? And not taking what I don't need, but take what I need and put up and feed my family, right? Or my dog. My dog, well, that's a whole other story there too. All right, so I've taken enough of your time. You know, I've said this in the past. Don't get so tied up in life that you forget about the journey, and it's very important. Right now, where I'm at in place and time, this is my journey. This is what where and what I'm doing is part of the journey. But we get so stressed out and tied up in life that we forget to slow down enough to enjoy the journey. Slow up and smell the roses, right? There's a lot of cliches out there that we just don't get until we're older. All right, so that's it for now. The link is in the description. Please watch that. It's very important for a landowner and a hunter to understand what's going on, and let's fix this. You know, it has to be fixed. If not, well, it's going to get regulated so bad that nobody's going to be able to do anything. Uh, just my opinion. Remember, I'm not against the Houndsman. I've just been put in a situation where I have to document and do what I need to do to protect myself. I'm not against the hunter. I'm not against the landowner because I'm a landowner. But we have to fix this. It has to be a group effort. You know, right now there's a line been drawn. Nothing happened in this DWR meeting. Everybody thinks it's a waste of taxpayer money. That is the vibe, right? So now there's a line being drawn. The badger is backed up in the corner. Mama bear has been attacked. However you want to put it, and it's going to escalate pretty quick if we don't fix it. Now there was some kind of promises made in there that if this takes effect and it's policed and fixed, it could be a good thing. I really believe that. I really think that it's up to the hunters and the landowners to work together, and I think they were trying to do that, but that's the thing. They were trying. It never really happened. That is the solution, you know, and I think I've experienced some things in the past couple of weeks. I'm not 100% sure. I got to narrow it down. That it's working. You know, like right now, um, I would have already seen dogs run through the property. Now, here again, you know, the documentation. If you don't record it, you never saw it. It's not provable. But and well, that's what I've been doing for the past couple of years is documenting. So that's neither here or there. You know, I don't want to demonize somebody, and I don't want to go after somebody, but it just needs to stop. But like I said, this year has been very interesting. Just bow hunting alone, you know, sometimes, you know, and it's very frustrating to me. I've sat up in the woods 2 days in the bow season when it's still hot, there's still leaves on the trees, and here comes a pack of dogs. one or two, not the big pack that usually comes through here. This is kind of a crossroads in this area, and I totally get that, and that's why I take my pick. I can pretty much take my pick of any game that comes through here before the dogs start running, and that's usually what I do. But that's a whole nother story. We have to work together, and I've really taken up a lot of time, but I just needed to get this off my chest, and we need to fix this. We're rolling into the general firearms, and it's going to be very interesting this year. Just because I look at patterns, and I've been a little bit more documentary. Let's call it that, because I've got a lot of stuff on video and a lot of stuff that I'm analyzing. That's it for now. This has been long, and eventually we will get to the aquatic stuff. Right now we're heading into winter, and the only thing I can say about the aquatic stuff is you just need to winterize all your stuff. And if I can, I'm going to start making some videos on that, because I have a lot of knowledge when it comes to aquatic stuff, hydroponics, aquaponics, anything that grows underwater, right? Water is very important. So that's it for now, and we will talk to you in the next one.